In the last episode, Alex had received a cryptic transmission from an unknown source revealing a shocking truth about Xanthe's plan to harness the planet's ley lines. The memory of Xanthe's dark ambitions still lingered in his mind like an open wound. He recalled the urgency in the transmission, the words echoing in his mind. Xanthe's power was growing by the hour, and if he didn't act now, the entire planet would be plunged into darkness. My heart racing, I knew I had to act fast. I reached out to Elara, Kael, and Zephyr, as well as other key leaders, to build a coalition strong enough to counter Xanthe's growing power. The weight of responsibility settled heavy on my shoulders as I contemplated the daunting task ahead. We gathered in a cramped, dimly lit chamber, deep within the walls of our makeshift base, the air thick with tension. Elara spoke first, her voice laced with a mix of determination and concern. "We need to move quickly. We can't let Xanthe gain control of the ley lines." Kael nodded in agreement, his eyes scanning the room. "I've got some info on Xanthe's movements. I can share it with you." But just as we were about to discuss our plan, a sudden explosion rocked the base, sending us stumbling. A figure emerged from the smoke, battered and bruised. Lyra, an engineer with knowledge of Xanthe's past. She handed me a datapad with cryptic information about Xanthe's plans. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized the stakes had just gotten a lot higher. "What do you know about Xanthe's plans?" I asked Lyra. She hesitated before speaking. "I used to work for her. I know her secrets." Her words trailed off, and I sensed a deeper pain behind them. "What secrets?" I pressed. Her eyes locked onto mine. "The artifact she's searching for. It's hidden in the labyrinthine cities of Eldrita." And with that, our journey into the unknown began. Previously, Alex had just received a cryptic transmission revealing Xanthe's plan to harness Aetheria's ley lines, and with the help of Elara, Kael, Zephyr, and other leaders, he was building a coalition to counter her growing power. Lyra, a battered engineer with knowledge of Xanthe's past, had just arrived with a datapad containing cryptic information about Xanthe's plans, and had revealed that the artifact Xanthe sought was hidden in the labyrinthine cities of Eldrita. The weight of responsibility and urgency hung heavy in the air. As I gazed into Lyra's eyes, I saw a deep-seated pain and a hint of fear. I knew that look. It was one I had worn myself not too long ago. I took a deep breath and asked, "What made you leave her?" Lyra's gaze dropped, and she hesitated before speaking. "I saw what she was capable of. I saw the destruction she was willing to cause. I couldn't be a part of it anymore." Her words hung in the air like a challenge. I sensed that there was more to her story, but I didn't press the issue. Not yet. Elara stepped forward, her eyes locked on Lyra. "We need to know more about this artifact. What is it, and why is Xanthe so desperate focused to find it?" Lyra's hesitation was palpable. Before its artifact of a powerful Aetherstone shard, created with a capable of channeling the power and connecting harnesses controlling the ley with lines, Xanthe intends across Aetheria. Use this to Aetherstone, amplify her shard to gain unparalleled control over Aetheria's ley lines. The air seemed to vibrate with tension as the gravity of Lyra's words sunk in. Aetherstone shards were ancient relics rumored to hold the key to controlling Aetheria's very fabric. If Xanthe succeeded in harnessing their power, she would become virtually unstoppable. "We have to get to Eldrita before Xanthe does," Kael said, his voice firm. Zephyr nodded. "I can get us there. I know a route through the swamps of Nefaria that'll take us to the outskirts of Eldrita." As we began to discuss our plan, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were running out of time. Xanthe's power was growing by the hour, and if we didn't act now, we risked being too late. We spent the next few hours poring over Lyra's datapad, studying the cryptic information and trying to pinpoint the location of the Aetherstone shard. The journey ahead would be treacherous, but I knew we had to try. As we prepared to leave, I caught Elara's eye, and for a moment I saw a glimmer of hope. We were in this together, and together we might just have a chance to stop Xanthe and save Aetheria. We gathered our gear and set out into the unknown, the fate of Aetheria hanging precariously in the balance. The swampy landscape of Nefaria stretched out before us like a sea of twisted, nightmarish vegetation. The air was heavy with the stench of rot and decay, and the ground squelched beneath our feet as we trudged through the mire. Zephyr led the way, her knowledge of the terrain guiding us through the treacherous waters. As we journeyed deeper into the swamp, we encountered strange creatures that defied explanation. Twisted, mutated beasts emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly energy. Kael took point, his sword flashing in the dim light as he fought off the creatures. Elara and I covered his back, our senses on high alert as we navigated the deadly landscape. Lyra brought up the rear, her engineering skills proving invaluable as she hacked through the underbrush with a high-tech cutter. The sun beat down on us, relentless in its ferocity. Sweat dripped from our brows as we pushed on, our canteens almost empty. I knew we had to keep moving. Xanthe's power was growing by the hour, and every minute counted. As the day wore on, the landscape shifted, the twisted vegetation giving way to a labyrinthine network of ancient, crumbling structures. We were approaching the outskirts of Eldrita. The city loomed before us, its towering spires and grand architecture, a testament to a long-lost civilization. But as we entered the city, we were met with an eerie silence. The streets were empty, the buildings seemed abandoned, and an unsettling feeling hung in the air. It was then that we stumbled upon a group of survivors, huddled in an alleyway. They were scared, hungry, and desperate. But they had information. "We've seen Thrain's mercenaries," one of them whispered. "They're searching for something, and they'll stop at nothing to get it." Thrain, the ruthless mercenary, was a name I had heard before. He was a master of manipulation, and his involvement in Xanthe's plans was far from clear. As I looked at my companions, I knew that we had to make a choice. We could try to gather more information, or we could press on, determined to find the Aetherstone shard before Xanthe did. The weight of that decision settled heavy on my shoulders, but I knew what I had to do. "We keep moving," I said, my voice firm. "We have to find that shard before Xanthe does." Elara nodded, her eyes locked on mine. For a moment, I saw a glimmer of hope. We might just have a chance to save Aetheria after all. But little did we know, Thrain's mercenaries were closing in, and our journey was about to get a lot more complicated. As we ventured deeper into the city, we encountered strange symbols etched into the walls. They seemed to pulse with a faint blue energy, and I sensed that they were connected to the ley lines. Lyra's eyes lit up as she examined the symbols. "These are ley line markers," she said. "They're used to harness and control the planet's energy." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized the implications. Xanthe was using these markers to amplify her power, and if we didn't stop her, she would soon be able to control the entire planet. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, but I knew that we had to push on. The fate of Aetheria hung in the balance, and I was determined to save it. As we navigated the labyrinthine city, complexities, and to uncover dangers, the await mysterious still. Lay twists. The and darkness lay stree lines. Aetheria twist. The road grew testing to dark ahead Thrasdust. Previously, Alex had just received a cryptic transmission revealing Xanthe's plan to harness Aetheria's ley lines, and with the help of Elara, Kael, Zephyr, and other leaders, he was building a coalition to counter her growing power. Lyra, a battered engineer with knowledge of Xanthe's past, had just arrived with a datapad containing cryptic information about Xanthe's plans, and had revealed that the artifact Xanthe sought was hidden in the labyrinthine cities of Eldrita. The weight of responsibility and urgency hung heavy in the air. As we ventured deeper into the city, the air grew thick with an eerie anticipation. The symbols etched into the walls seemed to pulse with an ominous energy, and I could feel the weight of Xanthe's presence bearing down on us. Suddenly, Lyra stopped in her tracks, her eyes fixed on a nearby wall. "Look," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of our own breathing. The wall was covered in a mixture of ancient graffiti and cryptic symbols etched into the stone in a language I didn't recognize. But what caught my attention was the image of a young woman, her face etched into the stone with haunting beauty. There was something familiar about her, something that tugged at my memory. Elara stepped forward, her eyes locked on the image. "Who is this?" she asked, her voice full of curiosity. Lyra's gaze was still fixed on the image. "I think it's Xanthe," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "or at least a younger version of her." The revelation sent a shiver down my spine. What did it mean? Why was there an image of Xanthe in this ancient city? As we continued to study the symbols, a low rumble echoed through the streets like thunder on the horizon. But the sky was clear, and I knew that this was no natural phenomenon. "What's that?" Kael asked, his voice tight with tension. Zephyr's eyes scanned the horizon. "I don't know, but it's coming from the direction of the city's central square." We exchanged a look, and without a word, we knew what we had to do. We moved swiftly, our senses on high alert, as the rumble grew louder and the air began to vibrate with energy. As we turned a corner, we were met with a sight that took my breath away. In the center of the square stood a massive stone statue, its surface etched with pulsing ley-line symbols. And at its base, a figure stood tall, her eyes blazing with an otherworldly power. It was Xanthe. She turned to face us, a smile spreading across her face like a crack in the earth. "Welcome, Alex," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "I've been expecting you." The air seemed to vibrate with tension as we faced off against Xanthe. I knew that this was it, the moment of truth. We had to stop her, no matter what it took. But as I looked into her eyes, I saw something that gave me pause, a glimmer of sadness, a hint of pain. And in that moment, I realized that Xanthe was not just a villain. She was a complex, multifaceted person, driven by motivations that I couldn't fully understand. The question was, could I find a way to reach her, to bring her back from the brink of destruction, or would it be too late? The fate of Aetheria hung in the balance, and I knew that I had to make a choice. I could try to reason with Xanthe, or I could prepare for battle. The weight of that decision settled heavy on my shoulders, but I knew what I had to do. Elara stepped forward, her eyes locked on Xanthe. "We're not going to let you do this," she said, her voice firm. Xanthe laughed, the sound echoing through the square. "You're too late," she said, her eyes flashing with power. "The ley lines are already responding to my call. Soon, I will be the one who controls Aetheria." The air seemed to vibrate with energy as Xanthe raised her hands, and the ley line symbols on the statue began to glow with an intense, blinding light. I knew that we had to act fast, or risk being consumed by the very power we sought to control. In that moment I felt a surge of determination and courage. I knew that I had to protect my friends, my world, and the people I cared about. I steeled myself for the battle ahead, knowing it wouldn't be easy. And as we charged forward, I caught a glimpse of something that gave me hope. A small, determined smile on Elara's face, a fierce glint in Kael's eye. A sense of purpose that drove us all forward into the unknown. The darkness lay ahead, but I knew that we would face it together as a team. And with that knowledge, I felt a sense of peace, a sense of purpose that I had not felt in a long time. We readied ourselves to unleash everything we had. The fate of Aetheria was on the line. I was ready. Bring it on. Previously, Alex and his companions had stumbled upon an ancient wall in the labyrinthine cities of Eldrita, where they discovered an image of a young Xanthe, and subsequently they found themselves face to face with the sorceress herself, who stood before a massive stone statue etched with pulsing ley-line symbols, her eyes blazing with otherworldly power. The air was charged with tension as Xanthe revealed her plan to harness Aetheria's ley lines, and Alex was torn between preparing for battle and trying to reason with her. As Xanthe raised her hands, the ley line symbols began to glow with intense light, and Alex steeled himself for the battle ahead, drawing strength from the determination of his companions. As the light from the ley line symbols intensified, I raised my hand, and a blast of energy shot out, deflecting the beam and sending it harmlessly into the ground. The sound of crunching stone and hissing energy filled the air, and I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Xanthe's eyes narrowed, and she retaliated with a wave of dark magic, but Elara was quick to counter it, her own magic swirling around her as she deflected the attack. The two of us clashed, our magic swirling around us in a spectacular display of light and sound. Kael and Zephyr joined the fray, their skills honed from years of combat, and Lyra provided cover with her advanced technology, firing bursts of energy that ripped into Xanthe's defenses. The battle raged on, with spells and blasters firing from all sides, and the ley line symbols on the statue pulsing with an increasing intensity. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Xanthe's plan than met the eye. What was driving her to seek such power? What pain or trauma had pushed her to this point? I remembered the glimmer of sadness I had seen in her eyes, and a spark of compassion ignited within me. As the battle raged on, I began to notice that Xanthe's attacks were becoming more erratic, her magic faltering as if she was struggling to maintain control. I sensed an opportunity and decided to take a risk. I reached out with my own magic, trying to connect with Xanthe on a deeper level. The air seemed to vibrate with energy as our magic intertwined, and for a moment I saw a flash of Xanthe's past, a glimpse of a life torn apart by tragedy and loss. I saw a young girl, scared and alone, with a burning desire for power and control. The revelation shook me to my core, and I felt a pang of empathy for the sorceress. "Xanthe, stop!" I cried out, my voice carrying above the din of battle. "You're not a monster. Whatever pain you're trying to escape, I can help you find a better way." Xanthe's eyes flashed with anger, and for a moment I thought I had misjudged her entirely. But then something flickered in her expression, a glimmer of uncertainty, a spark of doubt. The ley line symbols on the statue began to falter, and the air seemed to vibrate with possibility. In that moment, I felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could reach Xanthe, bring her back from the brink of destruction. The fate of Aetheria still hung in the balance, but I knew that I had to try. As I stood there, my magic still intertwined with Xanthe's, I realized that this was what it meant to be a leader. To find the courage to understand, to empathize, and to bring people together, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The battle had just taken a dramatic turn, and I knew that the next few moments would determine the course of history. I steeled myself for what was to come, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that even in the darkest of times, there was always a glimmer of hope. The question was, could I hold on to that hope, and could I find a way to save Xanthe from herself? The fate of Aetheria depended on it. With newfound determination, I took a step forward, my eyes locked on Xanthe's. "Let's talk," I said, my voice firm but gentle. "Let's find a way out of this darkness, together." The silence that followed was oppressive, heavy with anticipation. Xanthe's eyes searched mine, and for a moment, I thought I saw a glimmer of the person she once was before the pain and the ambition consumed her. And then, in a move that caught me off guard, she nodded. "Okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let's talk." The battle paused, with all eyes on Xanthe and me as we began to walk towards an uncertain future, one that held the promise of redemption or the threat of destruction. The choice was still mine, and I knew that I had to make it count. As we walked, the city around us seemed to hold its breath, the very air vibrating with anticipation. The outcome was far from certain, but one thing was clear. The fate of Aetheria would be decided in the next few moments, and I was ready to do whatever it took to save it. Previously, Alex had managed to momentarily halt the battle with Xanthe by reaching out with his magic and connecting with her on a deeper level, glimpsing a flash of her tragic past and sparking a glimmer of uncertainty in her eyes. As Xanthe nodded to talk, The air seemed to vibrate with possibility, and Alex felt a surge of hope that he might be able to save her from herself. But just as it seemed that a breakthrough was within reach, a loud explosion rocked the ground beneath their feet, sending everyone stumbling. The blast ripped through the ancient wall, sending shards of stone flying in all directions, and Alex's instincts kicked in as he shielded his companions from the debris. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the explosion had revealed a hidden entrance behind the wall, and a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Lyrian, his eyes wild and haunted, his movements jerky and unpredictable. Alex's heart sank as he saw the look of madness in Lyrian's eyes, the same look that had driven him to afflict himself with the crippling magic that had nearly consumed him. "Lyrian, no!" Alex cried out, rushing towards him. "Whatever you're thinking, don't do it!" But Lyrian just laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "You can't stop me, Alex," he said, his voice dripping with venom. "I've come too far. I've seen the truth, and I'll make sure Xanthe does, too." As Lyrian raised his hands, Alex saw that he was holding a strange device, one that seemed to be pulsing with dark energy. Xanthe's eyes widened, and she took a step back, her expression twisted in a mixture of fear and anger. "Lyrian, what have you done?" she spat, her voice venomous. Lyrian just smiled, his eyes glinting with madness. "I've taken the first step towards reclaiming what's mine," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "And with this device, nothing will ever stop me again." The air seemed to vibrate with tension as Lyrian activated the device, and a dark energy field erupted around him, one that seemed to be drawing the very life force out of the air. Alex knew that he had to act fast or risk losing Lyrian forever to the darkness. With a surge of adrenaline, Alex launched himself at Lyrian, determined to stop him before it was too late. But as he clashed with his friend, he realized that Lyrian was no longer the person he once knew. The device was amplifying his dark magic, making him almost unbeatable. The battle that ensued was fierce and intense, with Alex and his companions fighting to subdue Lyrian and shut down the device. But despite their best efforts, Lyrian seemed to be gaining strength, his magic growing more powerful by the minute. As the fight raged on, Alex caught glimpses of Xanthe, watching from the sidelines, her expression a mixture of fascination and horror. He knew that he couldn't let Lyrian win, but he also couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Lyrian's actions than met the eye. Just when it seemed that all was lost, Elara came up with a plan. Using her magic, she managed to disrupt the device's energy field, weakening its hold on Lyrian. Kael and Zephyr took advantage of the opening, pinning Lyrian to the ground and holding him down. As Lyrian lay there, his chest heaving with exertion, Alex saw a glimmer of recognition in his eyes. For a moment, his friend was back, and Alex felt a surge of hope. "Lyrian, it's me, Alex," he said, his voice gentle. "I'm here for you. Whatever's driving you, we can work through it together." Lyrian's eyes searched his, and for a moment Alex thought he saw a flicker of understanding. But then the darkness closed in again, and Lyrian's expression twisted into a snarl. With a Herculean effort, Lyrian broke free from his restraints, his magic surging out of control. Alex and his companions were forced to defend themselves, but they managed to subdue Lyrian once more. As they stood there, panting and exhausted, Alex knew that he had to try a different approach. He reached out, taking Lyrian's hand in his. "Lyrian, look at me," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "I'm here for you, and I'm not going to let you go. Whatever pain you're in, we can face it together." Slowly but surely, Lyrian's magic began to recede, replaced by a look of confusion and disorientation. As the darkness receded, Alex saw a glimmer of his friend, the one he had known and trusted. "Alex," Lyrian said, his voice barely above a whisper. What's happening?" Alex felt a wave of relief wash over him. Maybe, just maybe, they could save Lyrian after all. But as he looked up, he saw Xanthe watching them, her expression twisted in a snarl. "This isn't over," she spat, before turning and disappearing into the shadows. The battle may have been won, But the war was far from over. Alex knew that he had to stay vigilant to protect his friends and allies from the threats that lurked in every corner of Aetheria. As they stood there, catching their breath and tending to Lyrian's wounds, Alex felt a sense of determination rising within him. He would do whatever it took to save Lyrian, to save Xanthe, and to protect the world they all loved. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, but Alex was ready. He had his companions, his friends, and his own unyielding determination. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, and they would emerge victorious. For the first time in a long time, Alex felt a sense of hope, a sense that they might just make it through this after all. And as they walked away from the ancient wall, Lyrian by his side, Alex knew that he had found a new sense of purpose, to heal, to protect, and to lead his people towards a brighter future. As they journeyed on, the city of Eldrita gave way to the toxic swamps of Nefaria, a twisted landscape of twisted trees and choking fumes. But even in the midst of such danger, Alex felt a sense of peace, a sense that he was exactly where he was meant to be. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but Alex was ready. He had his companions, his friends, and his own unyielding determination. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, and they would emerge victorious. The fate of Aetheria still hung in the balance, but for the first time in a long time, Alex felt a sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could save their world and find a way to live in peace, free from the shadows of the past. With a newfound sense of purpose, Alex led his companions deeper into the swamps, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that even in the darkest of times, there was always a glimmer of hope. Previously, Lyrian's descent into madness had been halted, but not before he revealed a glimpse of his troubled past and a mysterious device that amplified his dark magic. As Lyrian began to break free from the darkness, Alex felt a surge of hope that he might be able to save his friend, but Xanthe's ominous warning still lingered, and the true extent of Lyrian's transformation remained uncertain. With Lyrian's fragile stability hanging in the balance and the looming threat of Xanthe's wrath, Alex's companions stood ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. As they trudged through the toxic swamps of Nefaria, the air grew thick with noxious fumes, and the twisted trees seemed to writhe in agony. The ground beneath their feet was spongy and treacherous, making every step a precarious balancing act. Elara led the way, her senses on high alert for any signs of danger. Kael and Zephyr flanked Lyrian, their eyes watchful for any sign of his darkness returning. Alex walked beside Lyrian, his hand on his friend's shoulder, a reassuring presence. The silence between them was oppressive, punctuated only by the squelching sounds of the swamp and the occasional distant rumble of thunder. Lyrian seemed lost in thought, his eyes fixed on some point ahead. Alex could feel the weight of his friend's turmoil, the pain and confusion that still lingered. As they journeyed deeper into the swamp, the fumes grew thicker, making it harder to breathe. Alex's eyes stung, and his head began to spin. He stumbled, and Lyrian caught him, his grip surprisingly strong. "Whoa, easy there," Lyrian said, a hint of his old self in his voice. "I've got you." Alex smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude towards his friend. Maybe, just maybe, Lyrian was on the road to recovery. But as they pressed on, the silence was shattered by the sound of rustling leaves and snapping twigs. A figure emerged from the underbrush, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. "Well, well, well," she said, her voice husky and confident. "What do we have here?" Alex's instincts kicked in, and he stepped forward, his hand on the hilt of his sword. "Who are you?" he demanded. The woman smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "My name is Lyra," she said, "and I think I can help you." Lyrian's eyes narrowed, his expression suspicious. "What makes you think we need your help?" he growled. Lyra's smile faltered, and for a moment Alex saw a glimmer of pain in her eyes. "I've known Xanthe," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've seen what she's capable of, and I think I can help you stop her." Alex's eyes locked onto Lyra's, searching for any sign of deception. but all he saw was a deep-seated determination and a hint of knowledge that could be crucial to their quest. "What do you know?" Alex asked, his voice low and urgent. Lyra hesitated, her eyes darting between the companions. "I know where she's hiding," she said, "and I know what she's planning, but we have to be careful. Xanthe has allies, powerful ones, and they won't hesitate to kill us if they get the chance." As Lyra spoke, Alex felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they had found an ally who could help them defeat Xanthe and save Aetheria. But just as they began to discuss their plan, a loud rumble shook the ground beneath their feet. The air seemed to vibrate with energy, and Alex felt a sense of foreboding. "What was that?" Elara asked, her voice tight with concern. Lyra's eyes went wide, and she took a step back. "It's Thrain," she said, her voice laced with fear. "He's a ruthless mercenary, and hell, stop at nothing to get what he wants." Alex's grip on his sword tightened. He knew that they had to be ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. The fate of Lyrian, Xanthe, and Aetheria itself hung in the balance. As they steeled themselves for the challenges ahead, Alex felt a sense of determination rising within him. He would do whatever it took to save his friends, his allies, and his world. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, but Alex was ready. He had his companions, his friends, and his own unyielding determination. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, and they would emerge victorious. The air seemed to vibrate with tension as they stood there, poised on the brink of a new and perilous journey. But Alex felt no fear, only a sense of hope and resolve. For the first time in a long time, he felt like they might just make it through this after all. Lyra led them through the twisting paths of the swamp, her knowledge of the terrain and its dangers proving invaluable. As they walked, Alex noticed that Lyrian seemed to be growing stronger, his magic stabilizing. The darkness still lingered, but it was no longer in control. As they journeyed on, the shadows seemed to deepen and the air grew colder. Alex could feel the weight of their quest bearing down on him, but he refused to give in. He had his companions, his friends, and his own unyielding determination. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, and they would emerge victorious. The fate of Aetheria still hung in the balance, but for the first time in a long time, Alex felt a sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could save their world and find a way to live in peace, free from the shadows of the past. The journey ahead would be long and difficult, but Alex was ready. He had his companions, his friends, and his own unyielding determination. And with Lyra's knowledge and guidance, they might just have a chance to defeat Xanthe and save Aetheria. As the sun began to set, casting the swamp in a golden glow, Lyra stopped, her eyes locked onto something in the distance. "We're here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex's heart skipped a beat as he saw a glimmer of light on the horizon. It was a city, one that seemed to be hidden deep within the swamp. And as they approached, Alex felt a sense of wonder and a sense of trepidation. What lay ahead, only time would tell. But one thing was certain. Alex and his companions were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that even in the darkest of times, there was always a glimmer of hope.